Hey everyone, welcome to a conversation on First John. This is our second to last week, and it's been a heck of a week. There's been some stuff going on.
There's stuff going on, and Rachel is helping with Every Meal, which is a cool organization. You should Google it. They do food distribution for families that have food insecurity in schools. So, yeah, such a cool thing.
Yeah, she's pretty involved there, so I think is it once a month or something. She helps with the distribution.
Yep, they literally take packed bags of groceries and put it in students' lockers or backpacks so they go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
we did 3 of the 4 coffee cart events this week are done.
One more to go,
which is the big. Those are kind of a heavy lift. We made 150 breakfast sandwiches for the Gophers football team today. University of Minnesota.
We cupped.
What?
We cupped.
Oh, we cupped. That's why I feel like this. I'm like, why do I feel like this? It's because I have tired with way too much caffeine. It's a weird feeling. Yeah, we cupped 10 new coffees. Some new stuff coming to Corner Coffee. That was fun.
Yeah. And we're coming to the end of First John.
It's been a good series.
This is a good series. First John, I would say this going through it was giving me a new appreciation of this letter. It's very easy to have the quick read perspective of a short book like this. It can be, what book should I read next? Well, First John's kind of nice because I can probably read it. I'll read it this week. If you're reading a chapter a day, it's 5 chapters. And here we are. This is week number 15 in our series, and the concepts that it gives are pretty easy to remember, but it's like looking at 2 things. You should have a relationship with Jesus. He's the Messiah. It's important, and love others. And then it's kind of like the pie chart. I don't know if that's a good descriptor of it, but it's like, let's look at that from 10, 15, 20 different directions. And so we haven't hit, in our 15 weeks, we haven't hit everything for sure. But
what was the biggest concept that you took away from this teacher? That kind of didn't shock you, but went, huh, that's cool. And you?
I think I love these core principal words that impact everything. It's so easy to say things like, I need to be a good Christian. And I don't really know I don't know if anybody really knows what that means. I mean, that means a lot of things. But that's kind of the thing that's paralyzing, is that it means all things. But the author here uses things that are words that have just radical impact. And so being loving, the declaration is that you have a relationship with God. It is of God if you love others. And so when we say, well, I should really work on having the heart of God. And, well, what does that mean? The author here says, love other people. Now,
I love the practicality of First John. It's like, because if you just ask anybody, how do you love God more? I'm like, I don't know. But when you try, pray more, read my Bible, all these things that aren't necessarily bad things, but they've been used as measures for faith for most of my life. Yeah. And then John's like, no, what actually matters is how you treat and care for people and one another.
Yeah.
Do you want to know if you actually care about me? Well, let's see how you treat people around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a window. And so the concepts of forgiving, concepts of abiding.
Man, that was mine.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, just to abide, to be present with. Last week, that word was burden. To follow commands of God. It's not a burden. And
It's not burdensome.
Burdensome, yeah. So the difference between is it hard or difficult? Is there challenges? For sure, but that doesn't mean that those challenges have to be. It's it's like a burden that gives you life and a burden that takes life away.
Yeah, it's the difference between something that hard that makes your life difficult and something that's hard that can be viewed as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. And today there are some. They're not unique words, but there's some historic words that can be cause us to go into a loop. It says that Jesus is water and blood. And so I don't know the last time that you went up to somebody and said, I'm so impressed. You're so water and blood.
Never.
Never. But there the symbolism of those that which is the core of it. And actually there's so much it's not simple or concise symbolism because there's water is a recurring theme in scripture. In fact, the Bible Project has a great series of podcasts on water in scripture. I don't know if they have anything on blood. I think they do have something on sacrifice, but those are Bible Project is a great resource. If you just do a YouTube search or Google search for Bible Project, you'll find that they have endless content, and it's engaging, entertaining. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's entertaining, and they're just brilliant. But so the most simple is that Jesus is life and sacrifice, and I think it's easy sometimes to see Jesus as either or, either, but not both. And this is the declaration that Jesus is life and sacrifice.
Yeah, and he's speaking to people that this idea of sacrifice was very real and instrumental to their way of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like they understood it. I don't think I or people today have a good grasp on like sacrifice just in general.
Yeah. I'm excited for at the beginning of our conversation this week. I think this is a way to kind of trick us into quantifying things that we really care about, and then also give us, not trick us, but kind of trick us again to how much our degrees of sacrifice are. We have a list of valuable things in life, and if you have to give them, each of them has to receive a score between 1 and 100 of their value, and you can't reuse a number.
And so you're ranking, essentially. You're supposed to be ranking them.
Well, give me score first. Because if you were just to say, here are 10 things, rank them from 1 to 10,
sure,
it's so hard. You just can't. It's almost impossible to do it. Like, how do I, which is, so faith and family, that's why I know what the right answer is supposed to be, I think. Yeah, but so to give them a score is kind of a tricking away to then, all right, now rank them.
Sure, then rank them, yeah.
From that. And then next step is from that same list to go, all right, now give these in your life. How much have you sacrificed for these things to exist or be a part of your life? 1 to 100. Give it a score. Can't use the same number twice. Now rank them. Which of you sacrificed the most for? And now see the similarities and the differences between the things you value and the things you've sacrificed for. And so I've done this, and I've thought there is quite a bit of crossover, but there were some things that were not close at all. And so I think about health was one that had different degrees of what I've value and how much I've sacrificed for it. Faith, I think, it's funny is that I feel I put my sacrifice for faith down lower because I thought in my mind I was trying to come in at a neutral, but like it's kind of what I do. And so how do you quantify it? And so anyway, but I think the thing that was more clearly understood historically was like you said, the concept of sacrifice. And I think people are sacrificing all the time now, but I don't think we necessarily quantify it in the same way as it was historically.
No, definitely. And so when the author is writing that Jesus is blood, Jesus is sacrifice, it did mean something different than what we jump to. So it's one of those moments that's important to like slow down, which is why we've been going slow through First John.
Yeah.
So like try to understand these concepts of like, okay, what was he actually trying to communicate by saying that to these people?
Yeah. So when first sacrifice is so much perspective, and so hopefully out of doing these rankings, there'll be some conversation about how things that we're passionate about or care about, it changes how we view sacrifice. Like, I don't know if I would call it sacrificing for my family because I love them. Like, that's the point. That's the point. And I think...
Well, it goes back to that burdensome conversation.
Yes.
It's like...
It's such a good picture.
Yeah. Maybe that's why the author wrote that first.
Maybe. Yeah. And so this new command to love one another as I've loved you. Jesus is life and sacrifice. How can life and sacrifice come together? Well, they actually come together in our lives constantly. And this is like the Bible calisthenics. Is that Jesus shared the parables of the treasure and the pearl. Person found something incredibly valuable and then went and sold everything they had so they could buy the thing that's incredibly valuable. Now, if you were just told, go sell everything you have without finding something valuable, you're like, this is a sacrifice I cannot do. Why would I do it? Doesn't make
sense. It's not worth it.
Not worth it. But perspective, when you go, I can't wait, I'm going to run to go get my thing to sell because I found something that's truly valuable. And I often feel like, my explosion even this week is that I kind of visualized often in my head, Jesus, the trudging to the cross to be a sacrifice for me.
Mm.
And this is like, again, it's theology shifting. Jesus' life and sacrifice, and he lived for me, and he's my sacrifice, and he sees that the value in me. And this is not a good picture, but like the picture is that he raced to the cross like somebody racing to go sell their stuff so they could buy the pearl.
It would. I mean, it is an interesting thought of like, what if this burden of sacrifice that Jesus carried, what if it wasn't burdensome to him?
Mm-hmm.
Because he saw the value of what he was doing. And I think sometimes that's the missing point, is seeing the value.
Yeah, it's Genesis. It's what we talked about last. There's no reason for God to keep working on a relationship if there wasn't something valuable that he was building a relationship with.
Yeah. Yeah, when I read the Old Testament, I don't see the value of the Israelites, but God sure did, obviously. And that's why it's important. It goes back to the way that we care for one another. It's because it's that perspective shifting. It's easy to look at the people around you and be like, yeah, taking care of them, doing something nice for them, caring about them would be burdensome to me, because I simply don't see the value in them.
Yeah.
And maybe people wouldn't say it that extreme, but I think that's the way we act a lot of times. Versus, you want to know how you know that you love God? By carrying that burden.
Yeah.
And seeing the value in people.
Yep. The end of this section is that, whoever has the Son has life. So whoever has relationship with Jesus has life. Relationship with Jesus, the calling of Jesus from John chapter 13 is to a new command I give you is love one another as I have loved you. So this having the Son, having a relationship with Son is being like him. Mm. And again, math, bringing this all together. If I'm going to be like Jesus, I have to love others like he loved, why in the world would I do it? Perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. And so as First John is coming to its like conclusion, bringing the attention to it, hate it how good it is. It's like it's so stinking intentional. It's not a burden. And why is it not a burden? Not because of some magic trick, because out of perspective.
Perspective. Yeah, so much of
Bring
faith.
that again. What do you think? Process that.
No, it is a burden. It's just not burdens.
You're right. Yeah. Semantics are real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Words are important.
Well, so much of faith boils down to perspective. I mean, why would anyone do the things that they do? It's because their perspective says that it's worth it.
Yep.
And that is like the practicals of theology. Why do people practice faith in the way they do? Because their perspective says it's worth it. Why do some people not? Because their perspective says it's not worth it. And so how do you invite people in? You have to communicate that it's worth it.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you have to show that it's worth it. I think that you can say, man, it's worth it. Come be a part. But if they see that it's worth it, it's experience.
Yeah. And so that it's, again, bringing into summation this letter. Next week we have, it does another quick cycle. We'll get into that next week about actually living this out, living out these main things. But I'm challenged to have more complete perspective, and unfortunately, I don't think that perspective is something that is done to us.
Perspective cannot be done to you.
Yeah,
it can be. I think a lot of times it's tried, but I've never seen it effective.
Yeah. There's value in saying, look over here, but it's the can't lead an animal to water, make them drink. Mm-hmm. So we have to soak up this perspective, which I think this letter is good at challenging us to do. Yeah. Rich,
wrap it up, Richard.
I just think looking at life, I mean, something that we get to at the end, and you already talked about, but just the idea of Jesus' life and sacrifice. I think when you look at that, it's, the last thing we talk about is how is it lived out? How do we be that? That's terribly
that's good though.
Worded.
That's
but
good.
Jesus' life and sacrifice, how can we be life and sacrifice?
Yeah.
It can't be done to you. You just gotta do.
Yeah. Gotta do.
It's good.
It's good.
We will try to get some rest in the next days. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
But thanks for hanging with us.
See you guys next week.
See you.